Oh, that's not quite in the right position, is it? Right. So, I'm here at last. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to because my tablet didn't seem to want to play. But I'm here now, and I'm here to start reading this book, which, is back to front. But this is my book, which I published last year, Bent Back into Shape, Beating Addiction Through Yoga. And it's the 1 year anniversary since I published it, which is it's going to be 1 year on Monday, the 15th. So that's the first publication of it. If you look on Amazon now, it shows the 12th of October as the publication date, because I was with a publisher initially, and then I changed that and I published it myself. So it's just me publishing it now. And last year I republished it on Kindle and in this beautiful, beautiful paperback version. I published that on the 12th of October, which was the second anniversary of the day I stopped drinking. So that was quite an exciting day for me on many levels. And the day I first published this was also very exciting. I wanted to be a writer for many years. Never did anything about it because I was always too drunk and lazy, and didn't think I could possibly do that sort of thing. Other people got to be writers, I didn't. But when I got to, when I was going through my yoga journey, I discovered that actually I enjoyed writing and I was quite good at it. I'd always been told that, but I started to actually believe it, which was nice. So I wrote the book, and I'm just starting working on a second book, which is going to be still about yoga, but not about the addiction stuff. It's going to be a little bit different, but I will tell you more about that another time. Hey, Ruth, lovely to see you. I think that was Ruth anyway. So I've just, very excitingly, I've just made donations to a couple of organisations, a couple of good causes. In the beginning of this book, I wrote that as part of my karma yoga, I was going to make donations out of the profits of the book, and I've just donated £52 to 3 different causes, which are very, very good causes, very important causes in the world. One is the ashram, where I got these teachings from. One is New Link Wales, and one is the amazing things that Yana Samuels is doing. Yana Samuels is this incredible woman that I know, and she's doing so much to help children in Sierra Leone now, and I've donated to that. So if you've bought the book, you have helped to contribute to these really good causes as well. So I'm going to start, I got reading some chapters over the next few days from the book. And I thought I would start where most books tend to start, the introduction. And I'm going to read the introduction and the chapter called The Long and Wine-Filled Road. And that is my favourite title of a book ever, I think. I wanted to call it The Long and Winding Road, but I thought Paul McCartney might sue me. And I didn't really want to be sued by any of the Beatles, because I love the Beatles. So I'm going to start with the introduction. I'm not used to reading to people that aren't my children, so this feels a little bit odd, but there we go. This will be fun. So, here we go. Yoga offers many tools that can help you to take control of your life and break free of stress and addictions. Through this book, I will share with you some of these tools. Sorry, my dog's just choking. My understanding of these tools deepens every time I read or think about them. I am not claiming that this is an expert book. I have only been aware of most of these tools for less than 2 years. I am far from expert. I simply wish to share with you how my life has been enriched and maybe even saved by the teachings of some very wise people, and how these teachings could help you develop your own toolkit for life. There is much I would like to explore deeper, particularly in relation to the neuroscience of addiction recovery and yoga, but I simply do not have sufficient depth of understanding of the science, nor am I likely to have in the near future. At another time of my life, I would like to study this in further detail, but this is not an option now. As a sort of footnote to that, I think I've realised in the last year, since I wrote that maybe scientific study doesn't suit this brain of mine. I don't think I'm that way inclined. For about 20 years, I used alcohol, cigarettes, and recreational drugs, as well as a host of other addictive behaviours to hide my deep-seated unhappiness from the world and from myself. Terrified of facing my emotions head-on, I was unable to sleep sober because of the constant negative self-talk from an inner critic that seemed to loathe me completely. I turned to alcohol and other harmful behaviours to give me a feeling of escape and relief from the self-loathing. I longed for a feeling of normality to enable me to put on a front of happiness and confidence that were non-existent in me sober. In reality, of course, these behaviours simply fueled the self-loathing and shame that brought me to them in the first place. Going to work with a hangover, feeling dreadful, and knowing I probably looked awful and smelt as bad, didn't add to my self-esteem. Following a breakdown in 2013, I found myself in yoga teacher training, something I'd wanted to do for many years. I was amazed to learn that there are depths to yoga I had never even known about. As I learned about the many layers and threads there are in yoga, I began to see that what I was actually discovering was a way of life I could live that may actually bring some peace and clarity to my life. I realised it could bring me far greater health and vitality than I had ever imagined possible, and could set me free from much of the unhappiness I had lived with for so many years. As I learned to breathe properly, to relax and to release tension in my body, I also learned to look at my behaviour, my thoughts, my actions, and to look at how I was living. I was forced to ask myself if I was living in a way that was ever going to bring me inner peace. I most certainly hadn't been. Gradually, through my practice and contemplation of these concepts, and with a desire to change my behaviour, I began to feel lighter, more at peace and happier. I was able to find acceptance of the demons that had blighted my life, to forgive myself and others for the hurt I had experienced in the past. I saw that I could create a better future, not by dwelling in the past, but by accepting, forgiving, and learning lessons. In this book, I will share some carefully selected stories of my own journey. I will also be including some blog posts I have written on my website, posts that I've had good feedback for and that have helped people. There will be practices you can incorporate into your own life and invitations to contemplate your life in a gentle but deep way. It is my sincere hope that you will find something of value in these pages that can help you find some balance in your life, whether you are dealing with addiction or not. We all, to some extent, find a way to soothe ourselves against the world. The tools yoga offers can benefit us all. So that's the introductory chapter. And now I'm going to read the first main chapter, which is called The Long and Wine-Filled Road. Thank you for that heart. I don't think I talk about this so much in here, but I'm a massive Beatles fan. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read the book. I'm a huge Beatles fan, so the opportunity to get in a somewhat, a bit of a Beatles reference into the title was just too good to pass up. So, The Long and Wine-Filled Road. When I discovered at the age of 16 that alcohol gave me a mask behind which to hide my insecurities and low self-esteem, I felt as though a great gift had been given to me. I drank only at weekends and generally had a good time. I was able to talk to people, to relax, to dance, and even more amazingly, I was able to talk to boys I was attracted to. This alone, to a girl so insecure that she was completely incapable of talking to boys sober, made alcohol seem like nothing short of a miracle potion. When I was 20, my life fell apart in ways I could never have imagined possible, and the low self-esteem developed into a deep self-loathing and a conviction that I was a despicable person. The mask became a comfort blanket to soothe my deep pain, and I turned more and more to alcohol and other drugs to escape the inner critic who constantly wanted to tell me how awful I was. This established a pattern of coping strategies that developed into total dependence on alcohol within a short space of time, a dependence that raged for over 20 years, punctuated only by pregnancy and breastfeeding-related abstinence, accompanied by increasingly poor mental health. As my addiction deepened, I lost countless hours of my life. I got so used to the blackouts that I began to think it was normal to forget huge chunks of the previous day. I experienced the shakes more times than I ever wanted to count, and would find myself craving alcohol, tasting it in my mind so clearly I would have to have it. I would construct any excuse possible to drink, and found social occasions when drinking wasn't possible difficult, usually squirreling a bottle of something away to drink when I got home. I found it really difficult to establish and keep friendships that didn't have alcohol at their centre. If people didn't drink, I didn't know how to communicate with them. In my more self-reflective moments, I knew I had a problem, but I was unable to face that fact. The fear of what would happen if I admitted my problem, the worry that my children might be taken from me, that people would judge me for my addiction, was too scary. I carried on in denial. Of course, I was making the risk to my children far worse. I see that now, but I failed to recognise that at the time. In 2013, after around 20 years of deepening addiction and worsening mental health, life took over. I was forced into the surrender that Alcoholics Anonymous talk about. That surrender happened long before my recovery seemed to start, and was in fact an acceptance that I was powerless over every aspect of my life. It was more like a surrender into a nervous breakdown. I sat on the steps of my house, cigarette in one hand, glass of wine in the other, bottle just behind me. My mind was racing. I had just returned from a training course at my new job, a job which I felt really underqualified for in an organisation I felt lost in. The job itself was great. A couple of years previously, it would have been a dream opportunity for me and would have given me the skills and experience required to create a potentially lucrative business when the project ended 18 months later. I was excited at everything I had learned during the training and the possibilities the job offered me. The arrival of the first salary during the training had been great too. It was nice. And the people in the team were lovely. I should have been really happy. So why was I sitting on the steps of my house at 11 p.m, smoking, drinking, and working myself up into a state of great anxiety, destined not to sleep until about 3 a.m. and to be late for work? The music I was listening to, and had been pretty obsessively listening to for months, gave me a bit of a clue. As I listened to the words of I Appear Missing, my favourite track from the latest album from Queens of the Stone Age, I realised with a sinking heart that the reason I had fallen in love with the track so much and why it spoke so deeply to me was that the lyrics reflected my emotions exactly. I'd always preferred to express my emotions through other people's words and music than to vocalise my own. I was able to express anger easily enough, but that was the only emotion I could ever really manage. Yet here was Josh Harmony telling me of the pain I felt, how lost, how disconnected from my life, how out of control I was. I had been listening to this song, and the album it is on, for months without realising it. I shared on Facebook that I was almost incapable of not listening to it. I was addicted to it, just as surely as I was addicted to cigarettes, wine and misery. The album tells many stories of depression, feeling lost, not knowing what life is about, mistrust, fear and isolation. This album, like clockwork, was telling me the story of my life, and I hadn't even realised it. This had been my state of being for so long it was normal. But things had been getting worse all year. 2013 was already proving to be a hugely challenging, utterly life-changing year. The realisation that I too felt missing from myself, and that I had done so for a very long time, was proving to be the catalyst for change, although at the time it just seemed to tear me apart. From the start of the year, I had felt like I was under siege, with job insecurities, the discovery of mental illness, alcoholism and cancer in my family, a vicious separation and child court battle with my ex, and trying to juggle all that as the single mum of a toddler and a teenager. The assault on my ability to cope with life seemed relentless. The mental illness and alcoholism in my family, while being incredibly difficult and traumatic for us all, was really hard for me to be with, as it seemed to me to be a mirror. While I was trying to comfort and be there for my family, I was desperately worried and fearful of the outcome. I was looking inward a lot, thinking, this could be me. I'm doing this too. I wasn't swallowing the pills or being admitted to hospital, but it could so easily have been me. There was a really big part of me that felt that I deserved to be, and couldn't quite understand how I had lasted so long without being the one who was there. A month later, with my levels of anxiety and depression rising, I realised that the only way I was going to cope with life was to give up work and take some time to recover from everything else that was going on in my life. I had accepted that my life was out of control and I could do nothing but allow myself to ride the waves. I surrendered into what I now have no doubt was a nervous breakdown, and while I didn't realise it at the time, began the long process of healing on a far deeper level than I ever realised I needed. So that was the next chapter. That was the long and wine-filled road. And tomorrow, I'm going to stop now because my dog is needing to go out for a walk. Tomorrow I'm going to read the next chapter, which is called The Yoga Path, The Path to Recovery. So that's going to talk about how I became well. And it's a much happier chapter. It hasn't got rock music in it. You can't have everything. And so I will be here again tomorrow. Let me just check. Because I've got different times, but I've got the time here. Tomorrow it's going to be at 2 p.m. I will be here. And so join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. I would love to have you here again when I read them. But obviously, if you can't make it, then that's fine. The replay will be available once Facebook has done whatever it does to these videos once they finish recording. The book, if you haven't read the book, next week on Monday for 5 days is going to be free on Kindle. And I will just pop the link, if I can find the... Having a tablet and a laptop in front of me is awfully confusing. So I'm just going to pop the link for the book into the comments below here. So here it is. HTTP Bands and Free. Okay, so if you wanted to buy the book, the link is in the comments below. And as I said at the start, the 20% of any profits from the book are going to the 3 good causes that I mentioned at the start. But obviously, if you get the Kindle next week, it's going to be completely free. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Ruth. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow. So have a lovely evening and Om Shanti, everybody. Bye.